Hi guys, welcome to the Capstone project solution lecture. I hope you are already done with all the tasks. However, let's move on and find the solutions together. So, the first thing, we need to run this cell to import all these libraries. So we are importing NumPy, Pandas, datetime, Seaborn, Matplotlib, and if we want to read data directly from API, we have to import Pandas data reader as well. He's also importing libraries for interactive plotting here. And then he's setting style to white grid and matplotlib inline. Notice he's also importing warnings just to ignore the warnings if there is any. So let's run this cell. So let's move on and read all the data files individually. We are going to read RBC, CIBC, BMO, Suncor, Encana, CNQ, USO, WTI. All these CSV files are given in the course material. So let's run this cell. So the next one is check the head of the data frame, and he's asking to check CNQ. So CNQ dot head should be very simple at this stage, and let's run this cell. And here we have the head of our CNQ data frame. So we have columns open, high, low, close, and volume, and we have the index as a date. So the next one is the tail of the data frame. So CNQ dot tail, and let's run this cell. It should be Q, and let's rerun this cell, and here we have the tail of our data frame. Notice the stock data starts from January 2006 and ending at December 2016. So the next task is asking for combine banks and oil companies datasets into a single dataset, BO. Hint is given and you need to call pd.concat here. Let's copy this ticker list from here and paste it here, and this is what we are going to use while joining the data frame. BO is going to be our combined data frame, pd.concat. If you press Shift Tab, we need to pass in object. In this case, the list of the data frames that we want to concatenate, we need to pass in the axis, and here we are passing axis equal to 1 because we are concatenating along columns along axis equal to 1, and then he's asking to pass key option, so the key we have to pass in tickers. So let's pass in the list of the data frames RBC, BMO, Suncor, and here we have CIBC as well, Encana, CNQ. So these are the data frames that we want to combine, and along the axis 1 and pass in keys equal to tickers. Let's copy these tickers here and paste it here, and let's check the head of the data frame in the same column and run this cell. And here we have the combined or concatenated data frame. So what we are doing, we are creating a ticker list for RBC, CIBC, BMO, Suncor, Encana, and CNQ, and then calling pandas concatenate function, passing the data frames that we want to combine along the axis and passing the tickers, which is RBC, CIBC, Encana, as the hierarchical indexing for the outermost level. So the next one he's asking for, get the list of column headers or column names in BO. This should be very simple here. So we can simply call BO dot column dot names and run this cell. See, we don't have names for these columns, so we don't have these names here. So he's asking for give the column names, say entity and stock. So our column names are going to be BO dot columns dot names, and we pass in the list of these names entity. Let's copy this entity from here, paste it here, and copy this stock and paste it here. And then in the same column, let's check the column names once again. So bo dot columns dot names. So what we are going to do, we are going to give the column names entity and stock in our data frame, and then we are going to see what the new names are. So let's run this cell, and here we have entity and stock. We did not have these column names, and now we have the entity and stock for our column names. So let's check the head of our data frame again to see if the change is there. So bo dot head and run this cell. So here we have entity and stock, the column names that we have given in this cell. So the next one he's asking for, what is the max and min close price for each bank's stock throughout the time period? If you remember XS method from the lectures, that should be helpful here. So bo dot XS, and if you press shift tab, so we need to pass in key, which is close here, axis, we need 1, and level, index level, which is stock here. So let's copy these parameters, paste them here, and keys equal to close. Our axis is 1 and our level is stock. And then we need to call the max and min functions. So let's call max here and run this cell. And here we have the same output. Let's pass this to max underscore stock so that we can reuse them at some stage. And copy max stock and rerun this cell. And here we have the same output. Let's copy this code and try to find the minimum price here. So instead of max, it's going to be min, and this max is going to be min. The rest of the code is going to stay same. So key equal to close, axis is 1, level is stock, and we are calling minimum here. Let's run this cell, and here we have the same output. RBC minimum close price throughout the time period is 20.60. CIBC, BMO, Suncor, Encana is the one who got the minimum price here, which is 3.01. If you look back, you see the Encana drops from 96 to 3.01. This is a huge drop. So the next one, recreate the bar plot below for max and minimum stock prices. Who got the biggest hit? We already know the Encana is the one who got the biggest hit from 96 to 3. So let's see how the bar plot looks like now. The hint is use subplots here. So if you remember the syntax, fig axis equal to plt dot subplots and pass in n calls equal to 1 and 2, and let's set the figure size here as well, fig size. So this is where we need to use these max stock and min stock. So we have max stock index, the name of the entity, and max stock values for these stock prices. So along the x-axis we have the entity, so we can call SNS dot bar plot and pass in. So what is x and what is y? Our x and y. Let's copy them. Our x is going to be the entity name, which is max stock dot index, and our y is the value max stock dot value. And on which canvas we want to put this bar plot. If you remember, these axes can be indexed, so axis 0 and axis 1. So this one is axis 0, our x is axis 0. And let's run this cell, and here we have the bar plot on 0 index. Let's put the bar plot on the second one, which is for minimum value. So copy this one, paste it here. Instead of max, we need min here, and min here, and our axis is ax equal to axis 1, and rerun this cell. And now we have the maximum values along our left and the minimum values along our y. If you notice, he's setting the y limits from 0 to 120 for both of these plots. If we set the same limits, it would be easier to compare the drop of stock price. So let's set the limits along y-axis. So grab axis at 0 index, and if you remember, set y-lim and pass in from 0 to 120, 0, 120. And the same limit for the second plot at axis 1 dot set y-lim 0 to 120, and let's rerun this cell. And here we have the same limits, 0 to 120 and 0 to 120 for both plots. Now it's much easier to compare the stock price between these two plots. So what is missing? He's setting y labels as well. So the y label for the plot at left side is max stock price, and for the second one is min stock price. Let's set the labels here. Once again, grab axis at 0 index, call set underscore y label, and pass in the label that we want, max stock price in dollars. And for the second plot, grab axis at index 1, call set y label, and pass in the label we want, which is min stock price and dollars. Let's rerun this cell, and here we have the same plots. The only thing is, like, the size of these plots are different, that we can play with this size actually. Let's see, it's 12 here. Here we have, it looks like now we got the same size of these plots as well. So now if you compare these two plots, you can clearly see that Encana got a significant drop in the stock price. So moving forward, line plot. Recreate the plot below using for loop. Hint is you have tickers, and this is the ticker list we already have. Grab the column close. Let's start with creating a single plot first. Say we want to create a line plot for RBC close price. So BO is our data frame, RBC is the ticker, and close. Let's run this cell. So this is the close price column for RBC along with the date as index. We can call plot here and rerun this cell. And here we have the line plot for RBC close price only. So he wants to put all these RBC, CIBC, BMO, Suncor, Encana, CNQ close price on the same column. We can use list of tickers in for loop and for tick in tickers, and then instead of RBC, this is going to be tick, and let's run this cell. And this is what we have: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have RBC, CIBC, BMO, Suncor, and Encana. So we are using list of tickers and calling for loops, grabbing the column close for each ticker and plotting the line plot here. So the figure size is different, and we need the labels as well. So we need to pass in the figure size here, fig size equal to say 10 and say 6, and label is our tick. So tick, and let's rerun this cell. So the size is changed. We need to call legend to display these labels. So plt dot legend, and let's rerun this cell. And here we have RBC, CIBC, BMO, Sunco, Encana, CNQ. So we have line plot for the stock price for each bank and oil company. If you notice, you have a dip for all these companies between 2007 and 2009. So this is when the recession was in 2009, and the stock price for all the banks and the oil companies significantly dropped. So let's move on to the next task. The above plot is good. However, the visualization can be improved. So he's asking to recreate this interactive plot. And he's asking to use .xx, the cross-section method, for interactive plotting. This should be very simple. Once again, if you remember bo dot, we can call xs and pass in key, which is close. Axis is our column, which is 1, and the level is again going to be the stock. So our key is close, so we want close column at stock level along axis 1. So these three parameters we need to pass in, and key is going to be close, our axis is 1, and our level is stock. Then we want a line plot, which is interactive line plot. This is very simple. Instead of plot, we need to call iPlot. And let's run this cell. Let's make it slightly smaller so that we can see everything. And yes, here we have the interactive plot for our close prices of each company's RBC, CIBC, BMO. We can turn any of this company off or on. Like RBC is off now, Suncor is off, Encana is off. We can turn them on again with a simple click. And here we have all these companies again. And if you move the cursor, we see all the numbers along the lines. It looks like the lecture is getting long. Let's split it here, and we will start from the same point in the next part of the lecture. See you in the next part of the same lecture. Good luck.